So Future Jordan did the thumbnail correctly. This is essentially the code snippet you'll be seeing. Pause if you want to look at it at any length, but I'll be going over it anyway because, well, we're going to be using the character and the, well, I call it a spell, or I call it a skill, but it's actually a spell. And if I were to choose between one, I would rather use the spell list rather than the skill list. And we are going to do Yoggothag Fatalist because if we do anything else, as strong as this is, and it is quite strong, there are certain backstory Old God combinations that will make this a lot less viable. And by that I mean Eldritch Parasite. Eldritch Parasite Aaron, to some extent Amnesiac, but not so much. So for timestamp's sake, as I actually get into Yoggothag Fatalist, yeah, we'll be playing with this character, and this is the character I'm making the mystery for, so shrug, but yeah, we'll go over it quickly. So, to be specific, and I didn't really use anything, I'm just using the stock background image that's given with the demo that I think was made by someone, a certain someone, but hey, all you need to know is that this cost is as says, but there is still a lot going on inside of it. Second mystery, charisma, Takushisan knowledge, second encounter, and then maybe a dexterity check, but the most important part is that in 85% of the runs with a character like this, it doesn't need to be this character. It can be literally any character with a... I'm looking up at something because I'm noticing something. But any character with a strong weapon, a very strong weapon, by the way, in this case. Yeah, just a note here quickly. Also, I didn't do a thing that I was supposed to do, so maybe I can switch this out. But nonetheless, we can continue moving on, because if I do switch it off or I don't run into it, I'll just say it right now, at least, that... Oh, and I was supposed to take Battlefields, by the way. I really hope I get it. If I don't, it doesn't really matter, because we're not testing Battlefields. We're testing basically, this spell. I call this a skill, but really it's a spell, because World of Horror doesn't really care, but there are things you can do to influence how basically things in the Perm plugin react. Again, to note again, this is part of the Perm plugin, so I'm using Perm plugin specific code, essentially, to make things work. Something in particular is that if you don't have this axe equipped, then you cannot use this spell. So you'll get a different message for trying to use it. And now I haven't completely smoothed it out, but it's because none of these this item slash weapon and this spell are not anywhere on the internet. I'm just using them and making them right now personally. So I don't need to worry about the bugs there. But if I were to release this more publicly, then I would need to smooth out a few things. Particularly when this axe gets unequipped, I need to remove a variable. That way you're not able to use this spell, which is also not in the spell pool. So again, it would be something specifically given to this character. Right now in the character's Ito file, she's given the weapon and the spell. Now, I haven't run into a single encounter yet, but when we get into one, I'll show you how it works. So, first things first, though, there is a catch for using this outside. Actually, no, you can. So it'll tell you, yeah, the skill cannot be used outside of combat. If I mash it like this, it'll continue saying so. However, if I don't show you it, if I don't have the axe equipped, then you'll get a different message where you cannot use this spell slash skill. I'll call it a spell, though, just to be technically compliant. So if I were to show you this here, again, this is a very specific thing that you can only do, well, with the setup that you have, not with this character. So 7 strength, and if I use this spell, you'll notice that I actually do the HP here. Now, normally, what I would want to do is call basically this number as a variable in the middle of this text. But because you can't do that, essentially, if you watch the very beginning or paused and look at the code at the very beginning, what you get is a bunch of, also this costs 3 stamina for balance's sake, you get a bunch of if statements. So that's what I did to basically give different text. And you can do up to 6 damage, so you can do anywhere from 4 to 6 damage. So I could even randomize the messages if I so please, but that just means a very, 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 very long if statement, and that's not the main thing I want to test. And just to really quickly explain, I would just make basically 3 different if statements inside of each possible damage possibility, so 4, 5, and 6. If you have more, that's more if statements, but essentially you can just copy paste a lot of the code. But because I'm just working with the spell itself, or skill in this case, or spell, then yeah. Also, I probably didn't need to do that. Nah, we needed to do that. So this is something I did think about a little bit balance-wise. It is very, very strong regardless. But you can still absolutely get demolished here. Can I afford to wait here, actually? Or do I just die for this? Note that you can't forget this spell, so that's why I'm forcing the spell to exist. You can do the same for items, but hey, I forgot my own event. That is stamina, by the way. So yeah, I guess I can show you the other part here. So we'll go into another run. The cost is 3 stamina. Normally I would just make it 1 for casual sake, but in this instance, as we actually get Zektas this time, 3 stamina is a bit much, but considering you can nearly one-shot every enemy, and for certain enemies you cannot one-shot, which is why I think the spell is okay to balance as it is, but yeah, as you just noticed there, I did die pretty quickly. That being said, as we get into the Zektas run, this is going to be a lot more interesting of a run, because without 7 strength minimum, you cannot prep strong with this weapon in particular. If you have a speed perk, obviously it helps out a bit more. Dexterity, second mystery, strength, Tachi-san, charisma, and maybe a light check. But the whole point of using this weapon is that once you equip it, you cannot unequip it. Now, I think you can still switch it out, but the whole immersion is just using the weapon itself. Now, again, that's not completely immersive, because you could just unequip that item, but if you unequip the item or are not using the weapon in battle, then you're not able to use this spell. So that's the intent. Let's get back into battlefields, by the way. So yeah, not really much else to say. I didn't really get to use... Well, actually, I used the skill a few times. So again, you saw that it did anywhere from 4 to 6 damage, I'm pretty sure. And if you didn't, just know that it can do that, and you get a different message for each one. You could do different messages for each... so just so that it's not the same line for a specific type of damage. But, as I failed that check, that would just mean more if statements. In particular, you would... once you do a certain number of damage, what I would probably do is just spit out 3 possible messages that each do the same thing. They deal X amount of damage, they close the window, and then they deal the damage. Again, though, that you don't have to do things my way, by the way. I'm not trying to imply that. This is just how I like to do it, because I usually like to give the player some information. So, for example here, I think we... Nope, we can't. Oh, I don't have it equipped. So, now that we're in battle, if you see me use the spell, this time, you'll get this message. I don't have to close the window, but I did it just for, usually you're closing the window. Sometimes you don't have to, but, and, yeah, you don't have to. So in this case, I'm going to equip it. I did make it fast to equip it. That's not normally the case, but now that we have it equipped, we can actually use the skill. That being said, or spell... Basically, if I say that word, I mean to use them interchangeably. Now, that being said, I think I'd rather brace here. Yeah, funny enough. So do a brace kick. Because normally, if I do release this, I would probably have it cost only 1 stamina if you really want to just be immersive. Otherwise, for balance's sake, or to make the runs harder, I would keep this 3 stamina cost, because while that might not look good number-wise, if you must have this weapon equipped to use it, it means that you're normally going to be able to one-shot enemies, just in general, if you can't just already one-shot them with the Prep Strong, because the extra 4 damage will usually push you. Now, again, there are a few enemies that have, like, that low 20 HP threshold, in which what happens is you use this spell, and then you only do 4 damage, and then you realize when you do a Prep Strong, as I noticed, that you don't actually have enough damage to one-shot an enemy. So not only did you spend, in this case, 3 stamina, you're also going to take damage in the face, which is really not good at that point, so hey. And that's particularly why I made the cost 3 stamina in my case, because 3 stamina for an encounter, it's not the greatest, but it's still better than taking like 2 all or 4 all, old gods forbid, so hey. Also, I have 2 stacks of Blood Frenzy, so that is also stacking on damage on ourselves, so the whole point is that you're one-shotting almost every enemy you run into. If you cannot one-shot an enemy, I guess figure it out. Or just get rid of Blood Frenzy, because it does cost a thing, but the whole point, again, is that if you unequip this axe, but you re-equip it, you get another stack of Blood Frenzy. Shrug, that's all I'm trying to say. Now, you can't stack Blood Frenzy, I'm pretty sure, because I made it so that if you equip it, you only get a unique version of it, if that makes any sense. Now, you might be saying, well, Jordan, don't you have 2 Blood Frenzies right now? Yes, but the whole point is that you only get one of them. Or maybe I just decided that you have to keep them. So theoretically speaking, you could equip, unequip, and then maybe you just one-shot everything, but again, this is damage towards yourself as well. So the moment you don't one-shot something, or you go into a ghost encounter, yeah, it's really, really bad. So yeah, now that we only have 6 strength, we run into a bit of a problem here, where now we have to gamble. So again, Zectast, certain backstories, Eldritch Parasite in particular, are a lot worse for this kind of character, where they're all about battle in the way that they just want to one-shot and everything, and if they don't one-shot something, it gets really, really bad. Now, that being said, I could just do prep attack instead. This is still 14 damage, but then I have to sit here and take -2 all, which isn't bad either, but the whole point is that you don't want to take damage. Also, yeah, Blood Frenzy, I don't know what's happening to Blood Frenzy. Do I have something to mitigate damage? No. So I don't know what's happening with Blood Frenzy. Because I would think I would be taking at least -3 stamina damage. Or, sorry, -2 more damage, but guess that's not the case. Right? Yeah, receive additional combat damage. I'm going crazy. Anywho, moving on. I think, didn't I say it when I was using Blood Frenzy with this character that one of the Blood Frenzies was not working as intended? I think I said that, but anywho, we'll move on. So, yeah, not really much else to say. I was gonna do more with it, but then I have to make more art first, because otherwise, without art, you can't really. I feel I don't really enjoy things. By the way, I already did take the handcuffs, by the way, but meh. I did take strength, but I think Zectast is about to slap our face here. I probably should consider using the monument, but we'll fight this guy first. So I think we one-shot this. Yeah, 7 strength again is the threshold here. Especially even if you are another character who wants to use this, unless you're just coding things to your pleasure. But at that point, I mean, you might as well just do anything you want. Then, yeah. You know, for giggles, we're just going to go into this ghost encounter just to kind of show you. So, yeah, we're losing stamina here, or reason here, but one, I could have used this spell to get a bit more damage, but fortunately, we get to one-shot this enemy. But again, though, 3 reason there is pretty much breaking even if we had to get forced into it, so hey. On top of that, if we did play on Aaron, which is what I was considering, but then I was like, what are the odds one of my action speeds gets affected? Then I decided, no, that's not going to work, so 2 reason here is okay as well, but again, you really don't want to take damage with this character. Even though her stats are relatively high comparatively to other characters, it's still not great. Also, I just realized I think I have to increase my perception, or otherwise I 0 stat, but we'll take care of that as we get closer to 84% Doom. But yeah, let me take a step back from the forest, by the way, to mention that, yes, alright, you really shouldn't be losing with a character like this, or any character. Like, basically, the bear averages, I didn't say that right, but the average is that some characters start with katanas, custom characters start with katanas, some of them start with, like, army knife or something, some of them start with firearms, even though I've dunked on firearms left and right. If you have bullets, it's not as insufferable, so in those kinds of starts, you still going off relatively well, and then if you have katana, it's really, really well. But again, there are still nuances here and there, because you do have to know what you're doing in World of 4, otherwise weird stuff happens. Actually, we're going to take a point of perception through the perk. More particularly events, but in my case, again, I'm working with a lot of events, and then I'm using my own little house rules as well, so I am just making things purposely harder on myself, on top of that. I really didn't want hallucinations, by the way. I also forgot my second encounter. What was I gonna say? I also didn't visit mansion twice. On top of me autopiloting, that reminded me. Yeah, on top of me autopiloting left, right, and center, especially for the past few episodes. Yeah, anywho, we get an attack dog. Extra point of damage might help. But again, it depends on what we run into. Or we could just die to reason in events. That could happen too. That's always going to lower Doom. I really should just change that myself just to make things a little harder on myself. But at that point, I mean, I'm already having a hard time myself. So, hey. We 75% to one shot. Again, note here that any change in my stats here is going to mess with our ability to pretty much fight encounters a lot better than normal. Again, a small action speed decrease, a stat decrease of our strength in particular, because this weapon scales off of strength. A lot of things can go wrong, and you immediately are in trouble because you're no longer able to one-shot things, and with the character with Blood Frenzy, yeah, that damage quickly starts adding up. Especially now that we're on our 4th mystery onward. Keep in mind, we also have to worry about Doom. We don't have any way to get rid of Doom, so, yeah, we're really hoping for a lot. Yeah, we're gonna use up stamina here. So, we do 5 damage, and if we hit this, we're foam free. Unfortunately, we didn't, so at this point, we're gambling. 77% twice. Alright, cool. Didn't want to lose that reason, but shrug. Lose more reason, but we at least get out of this forest, and boy oh boy, is our Doom really high. In fact, we're about to 0 stat, and now we have 0 statted because... Doom. So again, don't let it be said that katana starts are a complete win. That being said, I am really making things harder on myself!